Good evening. Welcome. It is good to be here again tonight to talk to you about loving yourself to health and wealth. This is when I share tips and tools and stories about how I've learned to love myself to health and wealth and how I have helped others to do the same. Loving ourselves to health and wealth. Love, 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 love. I say that loving ourselves is not always the easiest thing to do, at least from my experience and from the experience of those that I support in their own journey of loving themselves to health and wealth. If you were with me the other night when I had a conversation with Erin, the owner of Align Physical Therapy, it was a testimonial conversation where she shared the things that she's learned over a year and a few months of working with me, engaging in synergy activations. And when I asked her about loving herself, what she admitted, and I am so thankful and grateful for what I also learned from Erin, she continues to show up for herself, and that allows me to continue to show up for myself. But what she shared was that if I would have asked her about loving herself a year plus ago, she wouldn't have really known what I was talking about. As many of us at some point or another, and maybe still today, are not sure what that means. And that's why I have been having these conversations about loving yourself to health and wealth. And I know on some level, when people read that, they may choose not to join this live. They may choose not to watch this live because loving yourself seems hard, or we don't know why it's so important, or we wouldn't know how to begin to actually doing that. And then on top of that, I'm saying you can love yourself to health and wealth. On one level, it seems so easy. On the other, so complicated to the point that people don't even know really what I'm talking about. And so that's what I'm here to discuss again tonight. If you are joining this live, as always, if you have questions or comments, feel free to share them. Also let me know that you're here when you do join. And if you are watching this at a later time, share with me that you are watching, and feel free to ask those questions, share those comments at that time as well. I will get back to you, and I will answer them and address them. So what does it look like to love ourselves to health and wealth? Well, the tip that I want to talk about tonight is showing up for yourself and what that looks like. I would say some examples that come to mind as far as showing up. I know I can think of one woman who showing up for her was making the phone call for her first appointment and walking through the door. She had to admit that she was not capable of taking care of herself, that she needed help. And that alone took tremendous courage. When she walked in the door, I could literally see the stress and strain that it was putting on her to be in the office. When I acknowledged that, when I acknowledged that I realized she was showing up for herself, she burst into tears. Shocked and surprised that I recognized the effort it took. When I was thinking about this conversation, or what conversation I was going to have tonight, I don't often know until partway through the day. And even when the topic tonight came up as far as showing up, I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to talk about. Just trusting that the information that I wanted to share was going to come through. And a little while ago, I saw a post from Brene Brown, who, if you've watched any of my lives or know me, you know I love her. She had a post that says, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. And that's one of the things about showing up. Showing up may seem like one of the hardest things, one of the most challenging, difficult things. And it is one of the bravest things that we can do. Now, one of the things that she said in her post was that there was bad news. Self-love in our culture is subversive. The process has to be disciplined. It has to be a daily practice. And she says she wrote this note about 10 years ago, and she's still rumbling with it. She goes on to say that the good news is we can do subversive. Nothing and nobody can take away the power that comes from owning our stories. So I'm sharing that because self-love is crucial. It is critical to our overall health and well-being, to our overall wealth. Hey, Kim, welcome. Hello, Anna, welcome. Glad you're both here. I was just sharing how showing up is self-love. And showing up takes courage. It takes us being brave. Because if showing up once was enough, then we'd all be golden. But often showing up means showing up again and again. Well, not often, it does. It means showing up again and again and again. It means showing up and starting again. It means recognizing that we need help, or we need support, or we're not meant to do it alone. Showing up tonight are people who are joining this Facebook Live. So if you haven't already, give yourself credit, do a little happy dance, that you are showing up for self-love, that you are showing up for yourself. As I mentioned earlier, for one woman, it was making the phone call, setting up her appointment, and actually walking through the door. Showing up does not always look pretty. It can be ugly, it can be messy. And I had to laugh at this earlier because I woke up this morning, I decided I was going to do some work. After making myself a nice breakfast, I did some writing, and then I got into doing some art, getting creative. And through the process of that, normally when I'm going to do a Facebook Live, I fix my hair, I try to, look nice when I show up. And it got me thinking about how sometimes showing up doesn't always look our best. And that's okay. Showing up doesn't have to look a certain way. It just means that we're showing up and we're loving ourselves through whatever story might be going on. Today, when I realized, wow, in engaging in artwork. I tend to run my fingers through my hair. My hair was a wreck. As you can, see, it feels like a wreck anyway. But that was okay. That for us to show up for ourselves, it matters for ourselves. It doesn't matter what others think. It doesn't matter what expectations of others we haven't met, or even in some cases, what expectations of ourselves haven't been met. Showing up means being our authentic self. And sometimes that authentic self doesn't look their best, doesn't feel their best. It might find that you're emotional. Today was an interesting day for me showing up. I had thoughts about getting a lot of work done. I'm going through a major transition at my practice, and it means there's a lot of follow-up that's necessary. There's a lot of details to take care of. There's just work that has to be done. And what my body and being was asking for was rest, was fun, was relaxation. And I wanted to push through that. I wanted to get work done anyway. And I literally felt this headache start to come up from my shoulders up into the base of my skull. And that was a warning to me. It was a sign to me to pay attention, because I don't typically have headaches. They are very rare, very few and far between, at least for the past decade or so. It was migraine headaches that originally led me to chiropractic. But once I started taking care of myself and paying attention to what my body was asking for, I very rarely have them. I mean, I would say months go between me having a headache. So today, when I realized, whoa, I'm having a headache, what is my body trying to communicate to me? It was trying to communicate that I was not showing up for myself. I was not showing up for that authentic self that was saying, enjoy your day, have fun, relax, engage in your artwork. When what I wanted to push was this expectation that I get a certain amount of work done, this expectation that to have a successful business, a successful practice, that it requires a certain level of hard work. Showing up may mean walking through the door. It may mean making a phone call. It may be allowing the messy to come through. And it also may be going within yourself to understand what your body and being, what you are really asking for of yourself. Now, I know I have a few people that have joined. If you have questions, if you have comments, if there's something that you want to share, you want to know about as far as showing up, feel free to ask. Because this is a time for you to do just that. How can you show up in your life for your health, for your wealth? Now, how does health come out of showing up for myself? Well, it may mean literally taking time to exercise, to eat well. Yes, and I know you hear a lot of that, certainly from doctors and professionals, but it is true. When we show up and take care of ourselves, health is going to result. And it also means allowing rest. It means letting go of judgments and expectations when we have them. As soon as I took the time to listen to what my body was telling me, to check in on what it was telling me, to clear it with the synergy activation that I do, my headache went away. Now, again, if you know me, not working, not doing, not being productive is not the easiest thing for me to do. I was raised in a family that has a very strong work ethic, that you work hard. You work hard. And for me to rest, for me to relax, for me to spend a good part of the day, or even all of the day, doing artwork and other things that are enjoyable and relaxing is still not easy from my mind standpoint. I'm working on that. I've been addressing it with beliefs. I've been using the synergy activation to address it, and I'm listening to my body. So my question to you right now is, where can you show up for yourself in a way that maybe you're currently not, or in a way that you've let go? Or where can you step up how you're showing up for yourself? Now, again, if you're here or watching this at another point, I would love to hear how you're showing up for yourself, or also hear where maybe you're getting stuck, or finding it challenging to show up for yourself. I would love to know that as well. Now, for me, one of the things that I wanted to share tonight is how showing up for me literally meant quitting chiropractic. And yes, you did hear me correctly. Showing up for me meant quitting chiropractic. The career that I've spent a lot of time, money, and, well, me getting that education, becoming a doctor, that I am now quitting. And am I quitting healing? No. Am I quitting the healing work that I do? No. Am I quitting how I've been doing it? Yes. Why is that? As I have shown up for myself, as I have listened to what my body has to communicate, as inspiration comes through and I connect to it and follow it, even when I have no idea how all things are going to come together, how things are going to be taken care of. That as I continue to follow that inspiration, as I continue to follow what I'm being called to do, life just continues to open up and expand in a way that, well, is fucking fantastic. And what do I mean by that? If you would have asked me a year ago, well, certainly 2 years ago or 5 years ago, that I would be, if I ever saw me quitting chiropractic, I would have been like, no. Not 2 years ago, not 5 years ago. In the last year or so, yes, it was coming more into my awareness. But it still took me another year, almost 2 years, to actually get to the point that I am doing it. And how did this come about? 5 years ago, I had, I guess about 5 years ago, I had a conversation with a couple of friends, business partners, about, like, we were just brainstorming and imagining if we could work and do our work in a way that allowed freedom and flexibility and impact for the people who were receiving the care that we are offering, what would that look like? And at that point, I joked that wouldn't it be awesome if, well, we could work from anywhere? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could literally take a month, 2 months, 3 months off from working at all? That we provided our work, we provided our healing in a way that allowed that level of flexibility. And, we laughed and we joked about it, saying, oh yeah, that'd be nice. Well, that thought stuck with me. wouldn't it be nice to be able to travel anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and still be able to do my work? Wouldn't it be nice to have flexibility to be able to take time off? And that thought became something that stuck, and that I often thought of. I didn't take any intentional steps. I didn't sit down and say, ooh, I'm going to figure this out. Because to be honest, I didn't really see it happening. Certainly not within chiropractic. For me to practice chiropractic outside the state of North Carolina means I need to go get a license in another state, which means continuing ed in another state. There's not an easy way to practice in multiple states as a chiropractor without meeting all the regulations and the requirements in each state. So I didn't really put any effort into figuring out how that would happen. And that's how it all came to be. I continued to show up for myself. I continued to ask what I wanted. I continued to listen to what inspired me, in what direction I was being called. And that led me to this point of quitting chiropractic. My healing work has evolved and changed in such a way that I can do it remotely. That the psychic and intuitive healing abilities that have developed, again, all of it with showing up for me, giving myself space, giving myself time, like today when my body's asking for it, not working and pushing through when my body's saying, no, that's not good for me. That's how this came to be, and I'm super excited about it. Who couldn't be excited about having a business that allows you to be flexible, that allows you to have a freedom, that allows you to travel and work with people from other parts of the country? And it all came about because I showed up and listened to me. And as I mentioned earlier, showing up for ourselves is self-love. It can feel really strange. It can seem hard. Hey, Elaine, welcome. So for those who are still here, I would love to know, what's an area where you are showing up for yourself right now, that you are listening, that you are following through on what your body, your being is asking for, not necessarily your mind. If I would have listened to my mind over the last couple of years, I probably would not be in this place of this transition, this excitement about having this freedom and flexibility be available for me in my business. We often get caught up in our head. So again, where are you showing up for you? Because I know there are ways that we are absolutely showing up for ourselves. Don't always recognize it, don't always follow through on it, maybe don't realize how important it is. But that self-love that we're showing for ourselves by showing up, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, is one of the bravest things that we can do. Because self-love means looking past just what our conscious mind has to say. It means looking past our outdated beliefs, our current ways of thinking. It means looking essentially outside the box, or even getting rid of the box. And that requires us to show up with courage, to step outside of what we know, what we believe about ourselves, what we expect for ourselves, being concerned about what others might think or expect from us as well. So if anybody has any questions, anybody has anything they'd like to ask about or comment about, what we're talking about is how showing up for ourselves is self-love, and how that self-love brings us health and wealth. Okay, a pretty quiet bunch tonight, and that's okay. So what are my tips now that I've shared those stories? The tips are keep showing up for yourself in the best way that you can. Whether that, Elaine says it's complicated. Yes, it can be complicated, or it feels complicated. But I would ask, in a situation where somebody says it's complicated, where can it be easy? Where do you see the ease? Where do you feel the ease? And when you ask yourself that question, what comes into your awareness? And then take that step. Do I believe that what I've been able to achieve at this point is anything more amazing than what anybody else is capable of achieving? Absolutely not. Do I believe that I have more power and ability than anybody else who's watching this? No, I don't. I know that what I have within me is what each of you have within you. And these are the questions that I've asked myself. Now, I see Anna says she's had a hard time loving herself and her life lately. But one way that she has been showing up for her is saving money and volunteering at an animal rescue. Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I would say is sometimes what seems like the most logical solution to what might be going on in your life, what seems complicated, what's hard, what you're not liking about it, is not the direction to go. You know, Anna talks about saving money and she talks about volunteering at an animal rescue. How do these things bring us in the direction of health and wealth? They may be totally unrelated to why she's finding it hard to love herself and her life lately. They're not. If they are allowing her to feel safe within herself, and if they're bringing joy or happiness or some form of feel-good feeling, then that's perfect. We're not looking, when we talk about showing up for ourselves and we're talking about moving in the direction of health and wealth, it often is not the logical step. One of the things that I do in synergy activations is I often talk to people about what they want showing up in their life, what they want to be experiencing in their life, what they would love to be doing, what they'd love to have. And so that when they look at their life and they go through their daily life, they can say, wow, I really love me and my life. Because you can't love your life and not love yourself too. And that's why I say love yourself to health and wealth. So and where am I going with that? Let me just check in a second, because I'm seeing, well, not seeing. if we're in a place in our life that we're not too happy with ourselves, not too happy with how our life is going, what it feels like, what we're experiencing, figuring out how to change it is one of the most challenging and difficult, hard ways of actually changing it. You've probably heard the saying, the thinking that got us to where we are is not going to get us out of it. We have to stop relying on our logical thinking mind to lead us to this place of loving yourself to health and wealth. Now, I am the first one to have tried to do that. I spent years in my practice trying to figure shit out, trying to figure out how to bring new people in, trying to figuring out how to increase my business, trying to figure out how to talk to people, how to, just trying to figure it all out. It was exhausting. It was miserable. It wasn't until I came to this place of getting out of my head that my practice expanded and blossomed and bloomed, and that I love it. And I didn't do it by thinking my way out of it. I did it by finding ways to love myself more moments of every day and more days. And that meant really listening and paying attention to what my body is asking for. Today, my mind wanted to work. Because as I mentioned earlier, I'm quitting the way I have practiced and run my business for almost 9 years. And I'm doing something entirely different within my healing practice. And that requires me to make changes. My body said no work. I had a pit in my stomach. I had a headache that was developing. And it's because I was shooting myself, I was judging myself, I was getting all over my case. As soon as I stopped and asked myself, what was the best thing for me today? And that was to get involved in an art project, to enjoy my afternoon. It went away. So for those who did respond, and again, you can respond by sending me a private message or a direct message if you want to discuss this further, or if you want to know more or find out what you could be doing to get out of your head to get to that place of showing up, loving yourself to health and wealth, feel free to reach out. You can make comments below. Now, for those who have answered, I know Anna, you did with more detail. How does it feel when you start taking steps, even if they seem unrelated, but that feel good? I know one of the things that I've noticed is that the more I follow my inspiration, the more I follow what I'm called to do, the more of my life continues to be something that I love to live, that, I am enjoying on an everyday basis. I know I've had some other people join. If you're still here, please feel free to say hello. And what I've been asking people is, where are you showing up for yourself? And for those who are willing, where maybe are you getting stuck showing up for yourself? Showing up for yourself means consistently, repeatedly showing up for yourself and doing your best with that, not having expectations of what it looks like. not having judgments about what it looks like. As I shared earlier, it's one of the reasons I get on, even after I was running my hands through my hair all day, doing artwork, and I was just like, nope, I'm getting up, I'm going to show up anyway. Showing up is self-love. Showing up may mean reaching out and asking for help, asking for support. We're not meant to do it alone. Now, can we? Yeah, probably. I was somebody who, again, was raised in a household with a very strong work ethic, and as a result of that, you didn't ask for help unless it was absolutely necessary. So I often try to do it on my own. What did that result in? It took me 8, 9 years to get to this point. But the people that I'm helping in my practice are getting to this point in less than 2 years. Yes, in less than 2 years. Took me almost 10, and I'm helping people to get there in less than 2. Why is that? I am offering them consistent support because I realized that I couldn't do it alone. And Anna does say something that's very true. Sometimes feeling good feels really weird. Absolutely, absolutely. Today, when I had that pit in my stomach, part of it was, when it came down to it, I really didn't want to work. I really wanted to get into some new art supplies I bought. I wanted to be able to do some things I learned in an art class that I took on Friday. And I really wanted to be doing that. And it felt weird. 1, that my body was asking for that. 2, that I was giving myself permission to do that. And 3, that I actually said, okay, I'm not going to work. And I'm going to do this instead. We have been trained since we were really little to follow through on expectations, take care of our responsibilities, do what others expected us to do, and to have judgment all over the place. And I don't know about anybody else, but a lot of the people that I talk to on a regular basis, when I say, when was the last time you had fun? Like, laugh out loud, belly hurts, cheeks hurt, fun, they aren't able to answer me. Because we've trained ourselves right out of fun. We don't even know how to do it on a regular basis. Certainly easier, on an easy basis. So it does mean continuing to show up and having this fun for ourselves, even when at first it feels uncomfortable. Thanks for sharing that, Anna. We've got to retrain ourselves. Now, there are other ways to show up for ourselves, and we could talk about this, I'm sure, all night on some level. I'm looking at notes that I took for myself. One of the beliefs that I was working on earlier is the more I relax, the more I receive. We are so tense. We are so stressed. Showing up means learning to relax. Learning to relax. Certainly one of the other points that I wanted to make. I haven't known how to relax. That one has been something I have to continuously show up for. It requires some consistency. It requires effort. It requires us to follow through. And to start again when we get off track, to continue to show up for ourselves in these new ways. But as I said, I enjoy the work I do at a level that I couldn't have imagined 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. And at a level that is certainly much more easy. And there's going to be a point next year that you're going to see these lives, and I'm going to be in other states and other countries because my work has reached a point that I can be flexible, that I can have the freedom to do it from other places. And I've gotten here by showing up for myself. Now, if anything I'm saying, like I said, is resonating with you, if you have questions, comments, please feel free to share below. You can send me a private message. You can also, and I'll post the details below the video as well, you can schedule a complimentary discovery call with me where we can talk about how what I do can support you loving yourself to health and wealth. I also I'll be having another Facebook Live on Wednesday night. In that live, I'll be interviewing Dr. Deborah Barnett. She's a psychologist who has engaged with the synergy activation with me. So she's going to share her experience. And then I also have a couple of events in October, some group synergy activation sessions. One of them is local here in Asheville, in person, and another is remote. You can do it from the comfort of your home or office or wherever you might be, and you can experience this work. I'll share all those details below. I would love to see you there. And if no one has any other questions or comments, I am going to wrap this up. I will add, give yourself credit for those of you who have shown up tonight. For those of you who wanted to hear these tips about how showing up is loving yourself to health and wealth. Celebrate that, recognize that, acknowledge that. We often don't do that enough for ourselves. We tend to be really good at showing up, at being critical and judgmental. And I speak from experience. All right, so I hope everyone has a phenomenal evening. I'm sending love and health and transformation to you. Oh, let's see. Oh, Elaine's saying bye. Love and health and transformation to you until we connect again. Good night.